Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are so excited to have our friend Grant Venerable joining us here. If you don't know who he is, boy, oh boy, Dr. Grant, really, he's pretty impressive with all his history as a chemist, artist, author, and all the roles he's helped maintain and all the people and the lives he continues to touch. And really want to thank him for being here. It's such an honor. How are you today?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
For the most part.
I know.
Just
a little hoarse,
hoarse.
he says. That's okay. That's all right.
But
we're going to get through. And congratulations. He is our professional of the year. Always love when we get to speak with you. Clearly, you've been recognized in so much. And, but you're such a modest, down-to-earth person. So for those that may not know, tell us a little bit about the work that you do. And I know we don't have enough time in the show, but just an overview.
I want to get a little more upfront, up close and personal.
Good.
In what we need to talk about.
Sure.
In our nation.
Yeah.
In our world. And I jotted down some notes. And
Great.
I wanted to start with, I was just a little between my 74th birthday and a vital life pivot. Could you hear that well enough?
Yes, I hear you. Yeah.
I was in a pivot with an academic year, 2016 to 2017. And it was my return to teach first year chemistry at Cal Poly State University in San Luis Obispo, California. I could not imagine what I was to learn about the state of the nation and higher education since 1972. When I began teaching at Cal Poly, I felt like Rip Van Winkle.
Oh, my goodness.
Who fell asleep for 20 years. Except for me, it was 50 years. That I had been away from full-time teaching.
Wow.
And maybe not quite that long, but pretty close to it. It was a bittersweet, poignant wake-up call.
Yeah.
Like none other, and provided me with an unimaginably vital capstone to my memoir, Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown, on the journey from ancestral times, 1600s on, and diverse gene pools from Africa's Gold Coast to Western Europe and Native American territories. We've achieved greatly in technological capability.
Yeah.
Yet we've kind of lost the full vision of human community. But I was inspired to complete my photo illustrated 4-volume set of ebooks on the challenges we face in our most recent unknowns and on how to survive. That memoir was released a year ago on Amazon.com,
Wow.
Barnes & Noble, and Apple. It's a pretty interesting piece of writing. My current status past the 2016 pivot to Cal Poly State University finds me returned from Georgia, close to my Southern California, LA origins, that now I'm at 29 Palms, high desert, with Sister Linda and Brother Lloyd, who work on pioneering projects in conjunction with Caltech
Okay.
in Pasadena, which in 2022 dedicated the Grant D. Venerable House, an undergraduate residence hall,
Wow.
to my father's accomplishments. Our dad was Caltech's first so-called
Mm-hmm.
DEI student, long before the White House's clumsy executive orders
Mm-hmm.
designed to criminalize
Okay.
Americans' vital, if
Yeah.
uneven, progress toward a larger, authentic human community. I'm still unpacking boxes
Yeah.
following the May 30th sale of my 1 acre property in Tyrone, Georgia,
Wow.
that served me so well for over 26 years. Who ever heard of that? Nobody lives anywhere for 26 years
Right?
anymore, but I did. I speak here with a scientist's
Oh,
empirical restraint on what could happen when any of Earth's mortal beings happens upon the voice of a nameless energy. Did you get that? Nameless energy within the inner self. It is akin to defying any logical basis for my unexpected 2.5 day, 2,200 mile automobile journey with my two tabby kitty
aw.
companions that I've had for almost 8 years. Well, they were pretty quiet on the journey, so they did all right.
Yeah.
And we got here. And then that was the start of an adventure I don't remember having until I was about 11 years old, maybe even younger, when my family used to take us up to the desert to visit
Aw.
various Caltech sites of Caltech projects, like the launch of rockets. That was way before our space program began, but
Yeah.
Caltech was in the forefront of that, as well as a couple of other colleges.
Yeah.
And the desert just amazed us youngsters. It was this big, expansive place with mountains of many colors, and they were stony. Excuse me. They were made of sand.
Mm-hmm.
The desert had oases, places where you'd find a few palm trees surrounding a pool of water that was just there. But it was a mysterious place to us, I guess because it was so different. My father did a lot of his first career work on the Mojave Desert with a friend of his, doing a lot of surveying of properties, a lot of getting ready for mining of gold, mining of other minerals like borax. And I think that also helped to sensitize us to the power and the beauty of the desert. From there, it wasn't until I was about 12 when we started to visit relatives
Okay.
on the Mojave Desert, near Victorville, near Apple Valley. That's just in the kind of the low desert,
Mm-hmm.
just above the Los Angeles basin, but 100 miles apart. That's when my father introduced me to the Milky Way. And there were no lights at night, so we could go out just a few 100 feet from this ranch style house. And I don't think they had indoor plumbing. I think they had a little electricity. And we would on a blanket, lie down and
Yeah.
look at the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the thickness of these stars.
Mm-hmm.
They were so thick, it looked like milk. That's why they called it the Milky Way. But it
Yeah.
was like a milk of all these stars and heavenly objects dropping out of the sky. And it was like if we didn't move, they would just drop on us. But of course, that didn't happen. But that spoke to me. It caused my inner voice to speak to me. It's been speaking to me ever since. What came up for me in the last 2 months
Yeah.
of living here in 29 Palms, just a few miles from the American biggest marine base in the world, with 38,000 people that work
Wow.
there. Some of them Marines and naval people live there, but it lives in this great expanse that you can
Mm-hmm.
see from a high point, and you can see the high peaks around that base. One was Mount San Gorgonio, which in the winter is full of snow.
Yeah.
And the other one, just to the south of that, is San Jacinto, which is just behind Palm Springs. Beautiful, 10,500 feet elevation. So where am I going with that? I'm going to the unique culture that is here in this Yucca Valley that is between Joshua Tree National Monument to the south, which is this range of mountains, very strange, mysterious looking mountains with hardly any plants except few Joshua trees.
Mm-hmm.
I began to reflect, how did desert peoples deal with that
Yeah.
thousands of years ago? And the earliest records we know about came from that part of the world near Egypt, where
Yeah.
the Great Sahara Desert comes in. But it moves into the east of there. It moves into that place that was ancient Palestine,
Mm-hmm.
ancient Judea, and then even further east than that. How did the desert people, particularly the wise ones, who were known as the Desert Fathers,
Yeah.
they began to ponder with their thoughts,
Yeah.
what's going on? There's something here. We can't even see it. And I don't think we should name it. That was their attitude. But there was a presence, a mysterious presence, which they decided to call the Nameless. Had no name, but that began the first scriptures known to the Western world, where the Desert Fathers would contemplate their thoughts. What were their inner voices telling them about this vast reality of the desert that they lived in?
Mhm.
That's been my experience of the
Yeah.
last 2 months living in this desert. When I go to swim at the pool in the complex I live in, we're at a high point, maybe 100 or so feet higher than other points around. So I can actually see the surrounding mountains, whether they're low peaks or high peaks. And that's where I got this sense of the nameless, the something there that wasn't really there,
Yeah.
but it was there nonetheless. Well, I think I'd asked you the last time we spoke about your knowledge of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah. No. Mm-hmm.
The Dead Sea, even today, still exists on the desert of the plains of Palestine, Israel, the Levant, all those nations over there in the Middle East. It's the kind of thing that made these desert fathers begin to set their thoughts down on what we call papyrus. Papyrus.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this papyrus, when they would get done writing on it in the ancient Hebrew or the ancient other Semitic languages in the area, they would wrap them up, roll them up, and put them sometimes in big earthen pots
Mm-hmm.
and hide them in caves in the desert. Well, it wasn't as hot in a cave. So these scrolls were protected from the climate elements of heat. And the dryness also helped to protect them. But these scrolls did not get discovered by modern peoples until maybe the 1930s to 1940s. There's a woman scholar, Elaine Pagels, who taught for many years at Princeton University. She got her PhD at Harvard. But she's from the same state I'm from.
Okay.
Except she was from Palo Alto in Northern California. And I was from Southern California. I studied chemistry and physics. She studied theology and religious history. So that was a very mysterious thing for me.
Yeah.
Was to
Impressive.
understand what these ancients were trying to grapple with. So here I am back out on the desert, except this is where I live now.
Wow.
What's going on here in this part of the desert? Everybody coexists in a very interesting combination. And who we coexist with here is the military, the Marines, the Navy people who live at the Marine base, and then all the people that live and work in this valley.
Amazing.
That's what was so interesting. I met up with a culture that I had not met up with before. And back in the middle 1950s, when we visited this aunt and uncle and their teenage children near Apple Valley and Victorville, we captured this idea of mystery. And what does that mean? Well, of course, there's more people who live in Victorville now, but it still isn't a sprawling metropolis like Los Angeles. And this is not a sprawling metropolis. But this gets back to the words I used when we opened. Our technological achievements have far surpassed our vision of authentic community. At some point, after I swam in this beautiful pool and looked out at the vistas of the desert mountains, I said, what is this I feel here? I felt what I could only call a sense of authentic community. When I looked at this, almost 25-yard swimming pool shaped like an oval, and I saw all of the people in the pool. I saw mothers and fathers with their little children and their larger children. I saw how they were interacting with each other, but these were mainly people who lived in the Liberty military housing that I lived in. And you didn't have to be a veteran to live there or even in the military. But my brother, Lloyd, was a veteran of the Navy. So that helped them decide to allow us to live there in this beautiful setting. But what struck me was this, what looked like contradiction in understandings, where we have authentic community of people embracing each other as neighbors, as family. And the contradiction is only apparent because it turns out it's not a contradiction. It's really the whole purpose of our national military. I know that I get into arguments sometimes with my more liberal academic friends, and I've been kind of both liberal and conservative, but we get into these debates about spending money for weapons of mass destruction just to defend ourselves from foreign enemies. Fortunately, this country has not had to face foreign enemies on our own soil, but our troops would get sent abroad to foreign wars. So now I'm living in a place where the military is living in an authentic harmony with the military people. And the military people are talking more like highly cultured beings who want to get along and embrace and support their neighbors. And they're all at this swimming pool. I thought that was a beautiful thing to behold. And I realized, despite what we so often see on our capable news media, that's not the message that comes across. What comes across are video footage of the latest bombers, missiles, drone aircraft,
Wow.
weapons of destruction. And occasionally we'll see a parade or two. But I'm living in a situation where people take neighbors seriously as the only purpose we're here in this world is to get along with our neighbors and help them live meaningful lives.
Yep.
So, the question is, what do you make of that? What I make of it is when I used to visit my grandparents in East Los Angeles, a section called Boyle Heights.
Mm-hmm.
Boyle Heights is where all recent immigrant populations lived in Los Angeles for maybe 1 or 2 decades before they spread out and lived in other places. So Boyle Heights was always a place of many cultures and heritages of different people getting along together. I might have said this on a recent podcast, but I was only 4 years old when I remembered visiting grandparents, and I'd be out in the front yard.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would lapse into my interpretation of the latest hit songs, rock music that I would hear on the radio. And I would just let it loose. And my grandfather would have to come out of his house and he said, "Grant, you can't do this. You can't make a ruckus outside of my house because I have to get along with my neighbors." And I understood what he was saying. I said, okay, Grandpa, I won't do that anymore. But what it did leave with me was one of the biggest lessons I ever had in my life.
Mm-hmm.
The lesson was, we have to get along with our neighbors. If we fail to do that, there's nothing else here for us on this planet. I think if that's what I have to say for today, that's all I have to say. But there's a few little highlights that go along with that. And one is what I said at the very start. I went back to Cal Poly in 2016 to teach chemistry to freshmen for the entire academic year.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what I was in for until I walked into the classroom. A beautiful new facility that they didn't have many places in the United States. It's called a studio, chemistry studio. What would that look like if you think of an artist studio? Well, it's like an artist studio set up to teach chemistry and the beauty of chemistry. And I walked in there and I nearly just fainted away. And I said, I get to teach in this beautiful room with 8 tables, circular tables, with 8 stations at each table. So 8 times 8 is 64. And that would be the total capacity of that room. And at that table, there were experimental apparatus, chemicals. There was a computer terminal at each seat around the circle. And I had a big, huge computer terminal at the front of the room. And that terminal was about 3 feet across diagonally. And I could stand up there at that big screen and teach students how to do chemical calculations, how to apply the principles of chemical laws, how to understand the structures of molecules. So I felt like I was having as much fun as I hoped the students were having. But they still had not had a teacher like me. And so I'm feeling my way along to see how much of me they could handle at one class period. The period was about 3 hours in length that met twice a week. And one of my main messages was to talk about, you may already know how to work chemical problems in your own way. However, what I'm going to show you is a new way. And that's one thing you hope to get out of a college education, is to be exposed to things you do not already know. Well, that didn't go over that well with all of the students. In fact, with most of the students. And many of the bright students would say, I already know how to work chemical problems from high school. Why do I need to work your method? I said, because you've never seen my method. And I can guarantee you, the moment you graduate in 4 years and walk out of here and get a job, you're going to be able to apply my method of problem solving to whatever business you're working for. Well, they looked at me like I was crazy, because their message back to me was, I want to graduate. I don't want to be distracted by your methods. I just want to get the straight scoop that I could make a B or an A in this class. I said, well, you could still do that. Well, I said, but still, the main thing is to deal with something you haven't had to deal with before. Because as soon as you graduate, you're going to go out there for a job that's not going to be there because the economy is moving so quickly. Now, that brings us fast forward to the conclusion of the story and other realizations. This was 2016 and 2017. Nobody had a clue that by the time they were ready to graduate in 2020, they were going to be faced with something called the COVID virus that shut down the economy. The same jobs that were there in 2016 were gone. They had to almost be creative on their own to create a job. It may have meant going where there was no job, a regular job. Also, so that happened. The virus happened. And I'm sure every one of those youngsters thought of me when they were graduating and facing a whole different reality than anyone could possibly anticipate back in 2019 or 2020. So that's really my theme song as a teacher, is to get youngsters and oldsters ready for things they haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think of that?
And in the course of your career, let me ask this, and I know we're speaking kind of since the pandemic, but you must have seen so much change, right? Some good, some bad. I mean, all these years of, and
I did.
Yeah, which is good and bad, right? But what would you say is the biggest change you've seen in all these years?
All of it was in its own way bad. I had to be the one to make it good.
Yeah.
That wasn't the plan. But I was equipped by teachers and just meeting other people in my life to develop my creativity to be ready for anything. So my first job as an assistant professor of chemistry, I lost that job.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I lose that job? I lost it because, how did I lose it? I know what it was. The politics of how professors were hired in that campus of the University of California had changed in a few years. I was hired by the chemistry department to teach chemistry courses. I was hired by an undergraduate college at the campus to teach culture courses, sociology courses.
Yeah.
But that college lost the courses. So the chemistry chair had to write me a letter and say, we don't know what happened, but your job evaporated. And I had to go somewhere else. Well, by the time I landed at Cal Poly, it was about 2 years out. And it was a great job. But then I had other jobs to go on to, and other jobs, and other jobs. But I did not live the kind of life that said I could predict everything that was coming my way. So what did it do to me? It made me creative.
Yeah.
flexible, innovative, and resourceful. And it brought me into contact with a whole bunch of people I never could have hoped to meet. And that's all contained in my strange little memoir, Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown. Because every few years, I'd get catapulted into a new unknown. And I had to figure a way to deal with that unknown. So I can say I was probably separated from a job.
Really?
7 times in my career. But it helped me anticipate and be much more creative in getting myself the funds I needed to survive. So that's been my life.
Wow.
And it caused me to write a memoir that said, what was it all about?
Yeah.
I had friends that had regular jobs. Some of them kept their jobs for 40 years, for 50 years. I didn't. But we all get along with each other.
Amazing. Well, you've seen so much progress, so much change. And let me ask you, here we are now. I mean, you clearly love what you do, right? Are you ever going to retire?
I retired maybe 4 or 5 times.
I know. And you're still going.
And I'm still going. So my sister and brother and I don't know if I told you, I revealed that in the world culture, we're referred to as Irish triplets.
Oh my goodness.
Now, this goes along with a number of cultural revelations. What is the major religion of Ireland? Unless you're a Protestant.
Okay.
Then you're an Irish Catholic. And in our cultural world, different cultures give us different impressions of people's abilities or their characteristics. And Irish Catholic families tended to be large families. And they could space out their children. But my mother very cleverly had us, all of 3 of us, within a 30-month period. And I think that's because her inner voice was speaking to her. And it was saying something like that. I have some kind of health condition that may prevent my living as long as I would hope. And that proved to be the case. She has something related to anemia, something that related to hypertension. And physicians, OBGYNs, were advising women in that condition to not have except 1 child, or maybe 2 at the most, but certainly not 3.
Nope.
But one of her physicians said, oh, you can have 3, just take care of yourself. So she had 3.
Wow.
And we all arrived within a 30-month period. And she got to spend the last 5 years of her life with us. And that was her hope.
Oh my
She
goodness.
could spend as much time with us as possible.
Yeah.
And that, raises other kinds of questions. And I don't know if there's anyone in the audience that has questions about that and other things.
Yeah, feel free to call 631-307-4010, 631-307-4010. The lines are open.
I think many people ask at many ages about their lives. I'm having this experience. I'm having that experience. What does it all mean? And I was one of those kinds of people who reflected on that question at regular intervals. Some of the time I was in high school, I began to make journal notes.
Yeah.
And one of my profoundest set of journal notes was the day I was driving from Las Vegas. I was driving from Michigan. I spent a whole summer at Michigan State University studying with a dozen other professors in all kinds of fields of study, from math to science to philosophy to religion to literature, all that, to discuss what is the meaning of, it was called the functions of discourse. Well, that's a fancy name that people in English have that discusses what it is they do. They write about the theories of how people conduct discourses with one another or write down letters to one another. So we spent a whole summer writing, studying books about how people have done that over the last few thousand years. Of course, one of the first fields that did that was religion. And that produced what we call the scriptures. And then as science developed, we did it with science. I was driving back from East Lansing, Michigan, and stopped at different places along the way. But once I left Las Vegas, I entered the desert. And everything was fine in my nice Chrysler. The air conditioning was fine. And however, once I passed the state line, Nevada to California, I was having heating problems. And I wasn't too careful with the knowledge of how you take care of your car. And the car got overheated, and I could see steam coming out from under the hood. And I decided to stop. But where to stop? I think I'll stop on the bridge. It was just up ahead. And then I'll get out and walk back down to the freeway. And I will thumb a ride back to State Line, Nevada, or California, whatever it was, and get a AAA truck to come down here and repair the car. Well, I spent 3 hours trying to hitch a ride on I-15, but nobody would stop. Now, talk about a confrontation with myself.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Because the question got to be, why isn't anyone stopping?
Yeah.
Am I not their neighbor? And I said, no, that doesn't make sense. So why are they not stopping? So I had to go through a whole discourse with myself. Okay, what's the purpose of my life? And then, there were no cell phones then. I didn't take any extra water with me. So I started to get overheated. And I thought I might expire.
Oh, my God.
Out on the Mojave Desert, just 20 miles from Death Valley.
Oh, my God.
That's how desperate it got. But anyway, that's chapter 23 in my memoir, or 22, whatever it is. And it's a pretty interesting chapter on a discourse with myself.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And if you are just
It
tuning
is
in, we
wow.
just have to remind everyone Grant
So,
Venerable is here, our professional of the year. Sorry. He is a chemist, author, oh my goodness, professor, doctor. He is a man who has lived a pretty amazing life and continues to do so, let alone, is still active in the arts. And you play piano, right?
yes,
Great. And again, if you wanted to ask
yes,
any questions, please feel free to call 631-307-4010.
right.
What else is on tap? Go ahead, Grant. Sorry to interrupt. Are you there?
Well, I deal
Okay,
with
good.
a mouthful
Yeah.
of things. So sometimes it takes listeners a little while to ponder and say, oh, now I know what to ask. But now it's been 2 days later.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what my students dealt with in my classes when they said, well, what is he talking about?
Amazing. Amazing, amazing. Hello, hello. We have a caller? Hello, hello. I thought I heard the phone. Hello, hello. Try us back, 631-307-4010. All right, continue. Go ahead.
Oh, hmm.
Try us
I,
back.
I, I love the panorama of New York City behind you
Oh, isn't it beautiful?
and how
Hello,
different
hello.
that is from
Hi,
the.
there is someone here. Hold on, I can barely hear them. Hi, hi, hi. Can you hear us?
Hi, yes, can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, you're a little low. Hi, what is your name?
It's Dave, Dave Riley.
Dave, can you hear Dave? Dave, you're a little low, but I could hear you. I'll repeat the questions to Grant. Go ahead.
I was just curious to know, what's his biggest accomplishment in life?
Oh, what is his biggest accomplishment in life? Did you hear that, Grant? That's what he's asking.
What it is I've accomplished in life is that the
The biggest accomplishment, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Grant.
accomplishment in life. Number one, survival.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, fulfillment of something I'm inspired to do, to get done. Number three, the means to figure out how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And number four, the ability not to despair about what I couldn't do.
Wow.
I,
And where do you live, sir? Where are you from?
I'm from
Pretty impressive, right? This man has so many accolades. And by the way, where can we find the memoir?
yeah. Wow, thank you very much.
Thank you for the call. Thank you again. Where can we find the memoir? Grant, can you hear us?
I'm losing a little volume
Sure. He was asking about the memoir.
on my, where or what?
Oh, your memoir.
Online,
Perfect.
as
We'll
an
just
ebook.
search your name.
Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Apple, under Venerable, Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown.
Beautiful.
I actually had the joy and the frustration of realizing life is chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
And had I stayed stuck in that, I would not have fulfilled myself.
Yeah.
In fact, none of us would be here without chaos.
Mm-hmm.
The act of creating life, is a chaotic event by mathematical definitions of physics and chemistry. So, and I think the other thing, I mastered a pretty good quantity of chemistry, physics, and mathematics
Mm-hmm.
that helped me frame the world in a whole different way. Thing is, most scientists don't tend to do that themselves. they either stay in the science and then they do their life over here.
Mm-hmm.
So as I learned more science, I said, oh, that applies to life.
Yeah.
Why can't I put those together to get more out of life or science itself? But I picked, well, maybe I got picked
Yeah.
by UCLA
Amazing.
and the University of Chicago,
Yeah.
where I gained the knowledge to be able to do those things.
Do we have anything coming up? I mean, do you ever get a break? Are you going to enjoy a little bit of this hot weather somehow, some way? We got 3 minutes left, then we got to say goodbye, Grant. So we got to kind of wrap it up.
Okay, say it again. I'm having trouble.
Are you taking a break this summer? Any travels? Any vacation before we go? I just want to ask personally.
No, I'm using the summer to finish unpacking my hundreds of boxes.
Good. Grant Venerable, thank you for being here, joining us. Looking forward to next week's podcast if we're back. Enjoy the packing. Thank you for the insight and, of course, helping so many. Again, look him up, pick up a copy of the book, and we will chat soon. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Jill.
Thank you so much, darling. Enjoy your day.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Let's go inside the mind of a 10-year-old.
I should have worn those earrings today. I like those earrings. Gabby has those awesome earrings. I need to ask her where she got those, but that's just what she would want me to do. I'll have Michaela ask her for me.
Buckle up, Sarah.
Yeah, but then Michaela will be like, why don't you just ask her yourself? That's just like Michaela.
Sarah, buckle up.
Michaela's such a great name. I wish I was called Michaela. There's like a dozen Sarahs in my class.
Hey, we're not hitting the road until you buckle up, honey.
Oh yeah, seatbelt. I forget sometimes because my brain is like busy, you know? I wonder if there's pizza at school today.
Sometimes it can be tough to get through to your kids, but it's not impossible. Always make sure they're wearing their seatbelts, even on short drives. Remember, you have the keys, you have the power. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.